The Prime Minister made a very personal appeal to the Catholic Church. He wants it to take responsibility for what happened at Canada's residential schools.
As a Catholic, I am deeply disappointed by the position that the Catholic Church has taken now and over the past many years. When I went to the Vatican a number of years ago, I directly asked His Holiness Pope Francis to move forward on apologizing, on asking for forgiveness, on restitution, on making these records available. And we're still seeing resistance from the Church, possibly from the Church in Canada.
The Kamloops First Nation announced last week the discovery of what it believes to be the remains of 215 children buried at the site of the former Kamloops Residential School. The Catholic Order of the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate ran that school in 1991. They issued an apology for their involvement in more than 40 residential schools. It more recently offered support to the Indigenous community in Kamloops. Father Ken Thorson is with the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate. He's in Ottawa. Father Thorson, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Good to be here. Thank you.
I'd like to first get your reaction, if I could, on what the Prime Minister said today. He said that as a Catholic, he's disappointed at the lack of action from the Church, and he called on the Catholic Church in Canada to step up, ask for forgiveness, and acknowledge the truth. What do you make of the Prime Minister's comments?
Well, I welcome the comment. I think he and all Canadians, Catholics and otherwise, should be asking the best of their church leaders. I'm a leader in the Catholic Church. I'm a leader of the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate, and in that, I'm to take my example from Jesus Christ as a model of leadership. And at times, we have failed as leaders to live up to that, and so I welcome the challenge.
In 1991, your order, the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate, apologized for its role of running the Kamloops Residential School and for its role in what it called a cultural, ethnic, linguistic, and religious imperialism. But Pope Francis so far has rejected the Prime Minister's call for an apology. Do you think it's time for the Pope to say the Church is sorry?
Yeah, you reference our apology, David, the Oblate apology back in 1991, and I just correct you a little bit. It wasn't an apology for the Kamloops Residential School, but for the role that we had in, I think it's something in the neighborhood of 43 residential schools over the years, and so our role in the administration of the schools was significant, and so our participation in the colonial project that the schools were part of was significant. And so our apology was necessary. And what I can say, although I was a young oblate at the time, what I can say is that it had a profound effect for Indigenous peoples who received the policy in July of 1991 at Lac St. Anne Pilgrimage, a place of pilgrimage for First Nations peoples across Western Canada, Northern Canada, and Northern Canada and Northern United States for over 100 years. The apology was a profound moment, provided a profound moment for First Nations people and for church leaders to begin the healing. And I can only go from our experience of the apology, what it meant for First Nations people or Indigenous peoples, what it meant for our community in terms of changing our mindset and our approach to our relationship with Indigenous peoples. I can only imagine how much more powerful the apology would be coming from His Holiness, Pope Francis, who the Indigenous peoples have a great love for. And so, yes, it would be my hope that at some point in the future, this apology can happen.
Why do you think it hasn't happened to this point? I was with the Prime Minister 4 years ago when he went to the Vatican and he made the appeal directly to the Pope. And the takeaway was essentially an expression of sorrow rather than the formal apology. And like you, I saw the healing power of apology when the Prime Minister apologized to Labrador residential school survivors and what it meant to them. I mean, why the reluctance from the Vatican to say it's sorry when it did it, for example, in Ireland in 2018?
You know, it's a little bit, I would say it's a little bit above my pay grade. I'm not dodging the answer.
No, I appreciate that.
But what I would say is that I appreciate that the Prime Minister went to invite the Pope to come to Canada to offer the apology. But officially, the invitation has to come from the particular conference of bishops, in this case, the CCCB. And for reasons that, again, are outside of my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. That agreement hasn't happened yet. All I can say is that I hope it does. I know that for many Indigenous peoples across the country, not all, but many, if not the majority, it would provide healing. It would be a moment of grace.
The apology is only one of the requests. The other is to release documents from the church surrounding residential schools. And I know your order is in possession of some of these documents. Would you commit to releasing those documents, in particular to the ones that relate to the Kamloops Residential School?
We already have, David. The documents that have been discussed recently in recent days. I think what's being talked about there is something that is called the Codex Historicus, and these codices are the kind of a daily diary or the daily record, or almost daily record, depending on who was keeping the diary, of what was happening in the mission and what was happening with the Oblates, what was happening with their work. The Oblates, we've committed this past week to transferring or to making the documents, which are books. They're old books that were written in diaries, to making those available in a more accessible digital format. And so the work of this transfer, I hope will begin soon. In fact, I heard just this morning that our business manager here in Ottawa was in touch with the archive in British Columbia, and my understanding, I haven't heard this from the archive, but my understanding is that the work could begin in the coming days on some of the codices relating to the Kamloops Residential School.
So any documents, beyond just this, the logs as you've outlined, which will need to be digitized because I suspect if they're quite old, if they're handled, they could decay and ruin and you'd lose them for archival purposes. But beyond that, is there any document that you have that you wouldn't release if requested? Is there something that because a full disclosure for truth is important in this process?
Right. The only documents, or what I would say is that the documents that we would not release at this time are the personnel files, and those are, of course, that decision is in line with the Privacy Act of Canada, and so it would be our contention for the safeguarding the integrity of individual oblates that we wouldn't make those files available, but we would make any other files related to the residential schools available to assist in the search for truth that's going on, to find out just what happened at the Kamloops Residential School, but also if they might be helpful in the process of identifying, repatriating, etc.
Okay. Father Thorson, thank you so much for your time.
Very good. Thank you, David.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.